Welcome, everybody, to Wine and Wisdom with Whitney on Wednesdays. My name is Whitney Ziegler with Big Rocks Organizing, and thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to have my accountability partner and our special guest, Melinda Miller of Miller Organized LLC.
Hello.
And I'm going to share Mo's bio with you. So Mel also founded, it's called My MO. Her business specializes in whole home organization and maintenance. Under the My MO division of her company, she's a business consultant for those launching a small business. In 2019, Mel added coaching to her services and is currently working toward her certification through Coach Approach for professional organizers. She uses vision boards, as we talked about in one of our previous Wine and Wisdoms, to help her clients gain direction, clarity, and focus as they pursue their dreams and their destiny. So welcome, Mel. I'm so excited to co-present with you today and for the information that we're going to share with everyone and for hopefully the wonderful conversation that will come out of this too. Right. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We will stop at the end of each section for questions. And Devin is going to be our host, so you could put up your electronic hand, or if you have a question and you'd like it to remain anonymous, you could put it in the chat. And if you could stay in mute unless you have a question or a comment, that would be appreciated. And then just to let you know that this is being recorded so that we could share it with people later who weren't able to be here today, and it's also being live streamed on Facebook. So if you are camera shy, you can feel free to turn off your cameras if you like. And Mel and Dev, are there any other housekeeping things that I've forgotten?
I think that's all. I just like to add, for everyone to be aware of maybe keeping yourself on mute if you're not talking. Sometimes we can forget that our mute is off and then there's background noises. So just something to keep in mind, but nothing else from me.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Deb. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump in. And hopefully you all can't hear my cat Oliver. He's snoring right now. Okay. So, accountability partnerships, the key to success. Here is a little bit of our roadmap on where we're headed on our journey today. And our theme is Together is the Way. So we're actually, sorry, I forgot to cut this out. We'll talk about the benefits throughout the presentation. We'll also share our stories, our own experiences with accountability partnerships. We'll talk about what is an accountability partnership. We'll share some guidelines, and we have a couple of sample forms for you today, including a questionnaire that you can use to find an accountability partner and to vet them. And then we also have a form that you can use prior to each meeting that you have with your accountability partner. Other things to think about: where do you find a partner? Troubleshooting some issues that might come up. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A and an open discussion. So does anybody have any questions or comments before we jump in? And Deb, I'm relying on you because I'm just on audio right now.
No questions that I can see. Speak now. All right, we're good. Oh, okay. Casey says just that she's excited. Me too.
Oh, thank you, Casey. We're so excited too. Okay, so this was me about 2 years ago before I met Mel. So in October of 2015, I started my professional organizing business, and I was still working part-time. And at one point I had 4 gigs going at once, just, trying to make ends meet. And so 3 years in, I had not been able to replace my full-time salary that I had prior to becoming an organizer. I had had a health crisis and I had to change careers, and I didn't have a chance to gradually change. I had to jump in and just do it. So 3 years in, I was trying to figure out, how can I grow my business to the point where I could replace my former full-time salary? And then how can I grow it beyond? And so that is the point at which I met Mel. So we are both professional organizers. We belong to the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, or NAPO. And we have a listserv, and there's about 3,500 of us all around the world. And so I don't read the emails every single day, but I'm so grateful that that day I did, because Mel put out a post looking for an accountability partner, and I was really intrigued. And I responded to her post, and she's going to talk more about that later. But so we became accountability partners in, I think it was November of 2018. And then we had never met in person. It was just on the phone. So I didn't even know what Mel looked like. And then in April 2019, we both went to our national conference in Fort Worth. And I still hadn't met Mel, but on the first morning of the conference, there were 600 professional organizers there. And I sat down to breakfast, and I looked over at the woman to my left, and I looked at her name tag, and it was Melinda Miller. And out of 600 people, I just happened to randomly sit next to Mel that morning, which I don't think was a coincidence. So just wanted to share the story with you guys about how we met, and how in 2019, Mel helped me quintuple my income within 9 months, and helped me set goals that I never would have believed possible for myself, and helped me achieve them. She's helped me troubleshoot. She's helped keep me on track. She's talked me off the ledge of self-doubt many a time. She's been my confidant, my cheerleader. Your accountability partnership can just take you to so many amazing places that you never would imagine, that you would never dream. So I went from this drowning, to this. And so we are hoping to get you to that place, or to give you the tools to get to that place today too. Mel?
So there are many ways to create relationships based on accountability. Mastermind groups, coaching, consulting, and accountability partnerships. When looking at a mastermind group, go to the next slide. Thank you. When looking at a mastermind group, it's typically a group of 3 or more people focused on the same problem, goal, project, or everyone collectively achieving or producing a solution, achievement, or accomplishment. Next slide. And then a consulting relationship is sharing professional advice regarding business. So it's a consultant relationship with the client, the consultant sharing information based on their experiences. A coaching relationship is helping the client explore deeper knowledge of themselves or their abilities through trained, guided, thought-provoking questions. An accountability partnership is a personal, mutually beneficial relationship between 2 professionals who exchange information, ideas, and share a level of accountability. And it's for sure a peer-to-peer relationship.
It is. Do we have any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I'd like to share some guidelines that Mel and I would like to share with you. We didn't want to use the term rules because I think every partnership is different, and it should be different. It should be based on what your needs are. But we'd like to share some guidelines that we have found helpful. The first, and I think the most important, is confidentiality. And that is key. And without that confidentiality, you can't have trust. You can't feel safe sharing. This is a very vulnerable partnership. And it's also an intimate partnership where, like, I feel like next to my spouse, Mel is the person who knows me the best, who knows my struggles, my strengths. So you really need somebody that you can trust. We also respect each other's intellectual property, and we don't use anything the other person's created or their ideas without their prior explicit consent. We recommend that you touch base once a week, and you can choose whatever format works best for you, whether that's by email, phone, Zoom, FaceTime, or another method. We touch base by phone. And then we also suggest that you allow at least 15 to 30 minutes per person. So our calls typically run from 30 to 60 minutes. It's a little different each week. We try to keep them shorter, but sometimes you might have something that comes up that you really need to hash out with your partner's help. So who calls whom? Like, who's going to be the one to initiate the call, or are you going to meet in a shared space, for example, on Zoom? How will you communicate your goals to your accountability partner? Will you do that by email, or are you going to share a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or something like that? And then will you share your goals ahead of time? Are you sharing your big picture goals for the year, your quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals? You know, decide what goals are you sharing and how often. And then also think about what kind of accountability are you looking for? Do you want someone who is going to be down there in the trenches with you and you text them every day to say, you know, these are my goals and this is what I accomplished? Or are you looking for someone to kind of take a step back and have a bigger picture view for you about what your goals are? Maybe they're for the week, for the month, or even bigger picture life goals. But some people, they really want that really detailed nitty-gritty accountability. And for other people, it would drive them crazy. So you need to know what you want, what you're looking for. We try to limit our personal conversations and keep everything business-based. We know that life sometimes happens, and we're going to talk about that later on in the troubleshooting section. And then what is really helpful, and what I found helpful with my coaching clients, is that we have a meeting prep form. It just has 8 questions on it, and you fill it out and send it to your partner about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes before your meeting. And it just helps you get really focused on, you know, what were your wins over the past week? What were your challenges? What tools did you find helpful? Where are you struggling? You know, what topic are you bringing to the next meeting, to the next call? So, any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Okay, and Deb, if you could go ahead and share the meeting prep form in the chat for folks, that would be great.
I shall.
Thank you. So this is our suggested agenda for your first call, and your agenda might look different. You guys can agree on whatever is most helpful to you, but this is what we would suggest if you would like a template. What's your goal? What is your timeline? What tools do you need to make it happen? What do you need to overcome? And how can your accountability partner help? And then you would swap and spend the second half of the call on the other person. And then moving forward for subsequent calls, you could check in about how's your goal coming along? How realistic is your timeline? Do you need to make any adjustments? What tools are helpful and what tools are not helpful? What obstacles or new problems have sprung up? And again, how can I help as your accountability partner? And then always remembering to swap roles and to give each other equal airtime. So here's a pro tip from Mel and me. If you need advice or you need to process a specific issue or something that's happened, like maybe you had an interaction with a tricky client, consider scheduling a separate call outside of your regular weekly accountability partnership meeting, or limit the amount of time that you're going to spend discussing it during your call, like for example, to 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Do we have any questions about this part?
None right now.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Mel.
Okay, so as Whitney said, I sort of sent out a shout out on a listserv looking for an accountability partner. And I got such a huge response. There were like 30 people that were interested, and I don't need 30 partners. So I came up with a questionnaire, and we'd like to share some of that with you this evening. So one of the things you want to think about as you're preparing for, finding a partner is what kind of background are you looking for in a partner? Do you want somebody that works in the same line of work that you work in, or does that matter? How long have they been working? How long have they owned their business? Is it important to you that they have a degree or some type of college? What positions have they held in the past? What's their current business model? things like that, just so you can look for somebody who's compatible with your business model, if that's important. As you're scaling your business or trying to accomplish things, say going into public speaking or creating a YouTube channel or blogging or social media, it might be important to know if the person that you're vetting has those experiences or is interested in those experiences, so that you could possibly build that together. Or maybe they'll have advice for you on how to move in that direction. So those types of things are things that you definitely want to put in your line of questioning, or at least consider. Have you used, are you interested in hiring, outside services? So it's really part of the struggle of a small business owner is, having people, support teams, and managing those. So somebody with experience in hiring a coach or a consultant or a productivity specialist, a bookkeeper, do they have experience with that, or is that something they're interested in? Having goals. What kind of goals does the other person have? What's their long-term goals and their short-term goals? If you're a big planner and you're really into goals and that's really important, you may want to find a partner that is equally excited and equally goal-oriented. And then things like personality and professional development. You can sort of figure those things out by asking them what their strengths are or their areas of improvement. What are they looking for in an accountability partner, and what do you feel like you can provide? So I sent out these questions, and because it felt very vulnerable, I went ahead and answered them myself first. So I said, please answer these questions, and I will start by answering them and sending them to you, so that they would feel like they kind of knew me and could decide whether they wanted to erase and fill out the questionnaire and send it back to me. Any questions about the questionnaire?
No questions right now.
Okay, great. So other considerations, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask if Deb had shared it in the chat.
I did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So other considerations, do you want to find somebody in your same line of work, or are you looking for somebody in a different field? We happen to both be professional organizers, and we're both coaches. Is that important to you, or does that matter? Do you want somebody in the same market as you, or a different market? I'm in Indiana and Whitney's out on the West Coast. So a lot of times we have different challenges, but that is a strength for us, not necessarily something that we find would be a great disadvantage. But that is something to consider when looking for a partner. And then level of experience. Do you want somebody that's kind of along the same path that you are as far as experience is concerned? Are you up for being a partner with somebody who's much more experienced than you? And are you up for being a partner with somebody who doesn't have the same experience as you have? Each of those have their own positives and negatives, and can be challenges and can be strengths. So those are definitely things to consider.
Do we have any questions?
None right now.
Okay, great.
So Mel, tell us about your vetting process.
Okay, so the initial shout out that I put out landed something like 40 inquiries. And so as I stated, I sent out a questionnaire, and that cut them down to about 19. But I still needed to sort of figure out what I was going to do after that. So I did do some phone interviews, and of the people that I interviewed, about 6 of them, we landed a spot. We decided to move forward. But pretty quickly, one of the interviewees decided that She wanted to be more like in a mastermind group than in an accountability partnership. And so we went ahead and actually both jumped over to a mastermind group together. Another one decided that her sort of business views and business goals were not in line with my business goals, and so we parted ways. Of the four that remained, a couple of the relationships sort of just, after we worked together for a while, we just decided that it wasn't working. One gal found in our work together that she wanted somebody who was really more sort of close by and could actually sort of shadow her in her work. She decided that that would be better for her than an accountability partnership that was, with someone in a different state. And then the other person really wanted somebody that could hold their feet to the fire and really ask those tough questions. Like, why haven't you achieved what you said you were going to achieve? And that's just really not my style. And so, again, we decided to just part ways. But it's really, really important to think about courage. So number one is the courage to connect, to really be vulnerable with your partner. If this partner is a stranger, you don't really know much about each other. And so giving yourself the space and the time to try to connect and allow yourself to connect on a deeper level and be vulnerable with that person is really, really important. And then the courage to let go if it's not working. One of the things that I did from the beginning was I announced that I was going to really go into this without judgment, and that people needed to really be honest about how they felt. And I needed to be honest with people about how I felt and what was working and what wasn't working. And the courage to let go. Every relationship that I built and that ended very peacefully, and we wished each other the best, and there were no hard feelings. So just having the courage to hold yourself in that space and understand that it's not personal. You want the best for that partner, and that partner wants the best for you, and you may not be the best for each other, and just understanding that. Are there any questions?
Someone asked, how did you handle when it wasn't working? Which I feel like you kind of just answered, but maybe if you wanted to talk on that anymore, that was the one question.
Sure, and that is a very good question. So I think the first thing is making sure that you communicate with the other person. And I mean, I did this from the get-go. I even said, when I sent out the vetting questions, I said, if you don't want to do this, that's fine. Just let me know. There are no hard feelings. I'm not going to, sit in bed at night and wonder what of my question or what of my answers turned them off. You can't really go there. And then being in that space and keeping yourself in that space of just being in a really positive way. You can just say, I'm feeling, for instance, that this isn't working for me. I feel like I need somebody that's going to hold my feet to the fire more. And, that other person may say, I'm not really comfortable with that. And then you just sort of agree that it's been great, and be very complimentary of each other and be very kind to each other, and just, agree to stay and connect. I do still hear from one of my partners, one of my ex-partners, every once in a while. We spent some time at conference together. There are truly no hard feelings. But this is a business relationship. It's a very intimate relationship, but it is a business relationship. And in business, when something's not working, you do need to move on. So just trying to hold yourself in the highest space possible, and hoping your partner can do the same. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, the original question asker said, I love the courage and honesty from the get-go, which I'd agree with. Someone else asked, how long did you give those previous relationships before letting go?
It sort of just, and you will find this, it just sort of happens organically. I was sort of thinking, it sort of wasn't working out for me. And I kind of was touching base and saying, so how are you feeling? And when the other person said, yeah, this isn't, I kind of feel like I need this. I've learned this about myself, and I kind of feel like I really would rather have somebody maybe come and work with me directly and shadow me. We then decided to, mutually let go. It is a breakup, but it doesn't have to be a painful breakup. It's, when you sort of think about it as just letting something run its course, and you sort of focus on wanting the best for the other person and wanting the best for yourself. And then again, you may not be the best for each other. That doesn't mean that you're not a good person or valuable, and it doesn't mean they're not a bad person or not valuable. It just means you're not right for each other. And so if you communicate in that way, a very kind way, and sort of hold yourself in that space, you'll be amazed at how easy it is really to let go.
Follow-up question. Are we talking a couple of weeks, months? It seems like it takes time to build.
It does. I think it does. And so the first person of the 6, we pretty much, after we talked the first time and really kind of had a heart-to-heart, we decided that we weren't going to be a good fit. And the call was scheduled for an hour, and I think we were off the phone in 45 minutes. The second one was really within a couple of weeks. And then the third and fourth one, I would say one was done in a couple of months, and the other one was done maybe in 4 months. So it is a commitment of, working and connecting once a week. I connected with each of these people once a week until it was done. So, it is a commitment. But again, organically, you may know right away, and you may be comfortable with severing ties right away, and you may not. So if you have a large response like I did, there's nothing wrong with holding on to the people that you feel are going to be the best fit, and sort of working with all of them and just seeing how it works out.
That was super helpful. I think, any more questions? I think that's all the questions for this section.
Great.
Okay, so the next part is, how do you find a partner and where? So here are some ideas that we came up with. Number 1 would be your professional associations that you belong to, or networking groups. For example, a Toastmasters, the gym, if your gym is open, maybe pre-COVID. You might find an appropriate person through your friends or through your colleagues, but we highly recommend that your partner not be family or friends for several reasons. One is that they might know you almost too well to be objective and to give you honest feedback. They might also kind of see you in a specific role, or kind of have you in a box, and whereas somebody who doesn't know you as well might be able to see more possibilities for you, if that makes sense. And 2, because it's a business relationship, if someone were my family or my friend, I might feel more comfortable flaking out or blowing them off for a week or 2 or something like that. I might not have that same level of professional commitment. And then also other sources might be a church or spiritual group that you belong to, or civic or volunteer organizations, or different activity groups. Maybe you belong to a hiking club or a wine tasting group. And I'm curious to see if any of you have other ideas of where you might meet a potential accountability partner.
Someone asked, so friends and family can give suggestions for partners, but not be partners?
Ideally, no.
And I'd like to just throw something in here too, if I can. I think that, when you get on the phone with your girlfriend or a good buddy, you tend to chat and talk, and things kind of get off track. It's just a different relationship. When you are connected with another individual in this way, you are connected through a business. So your focus is your business, and a friendship will form but the main component is the business. And I think that's the difference between an accountability partnership and a friendship. A friendship's based on being friends, and an accountability partnership is based on business.
Yeah. And you have to feel comfortable giving someone honest and open feedback. And sometimes that might be hard with our families and friends, that, you know, especially if we have a long history with them.
I have an idea of where you can possibly find an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Our Big Rocks Facebook group.
Well, hey, yes. That would be an awesome place to find a partner. And it might be for business goals, or it could be for personal goals, like maybe if you're on your right sizing journey, for example. Thanks, Dev. Any other ideas out there? So our next section is about troubleshooting. So somebody has, you know, we had some questions about vetting, other things that might come up. For example, maybe you feel like one person in the partnership isn't, quote, pulling their weight. Like maybe they're not sending their goals each week, or maybe they've kind of forgotten about your calls or disappeared for a little while. Or maybe they're not prioritizing your accountability partnership relationship. So in that case, and with all of these listed here, we find that we recommend that you communicate as soon as this becomes an issue, so as soon as it comes into your awareness, and that you communicate honestly, respectfully, and with kindness. And like Mel said, kind of as your highest level self. And I think expect the best and assume the best of the other person. Maybe something's going on with them that you're not aware of. This could also happen when life gets in the way. Mel and I have been through some pretty big transitions, such as losing loved ones and now the pandemic. And we're able to, you know, lift each other up during those hard times and help keep each other on track and keep each other moving forward with our goals. But we also do give each other some grace when life gets in the way, and we're there to support each other. Mel already talked about, you know, what do you do if you find out that you're not compatible with somebody? And two, there might come a time where you might outgrow your accountability partner, or maybe you guys decide to head in two different directions, or you want something different than you originally did when you formed your partnership. Any questions or any other issues that you guys want to bring up?
I do want to say, in outgrowing the relationship, this isn't an exclusive relationship. So there's nothing to say that if you are finding that you're not getting everything from your accountability partner, that you can't go out and find another accountability partner and start working with someone else or a couple of different people to see if you can find the right fit or a better fit, before you let the relationship that you're in go, or as an addendum to the relationship that you have. I had just formed another accountability partnership with someone just recently, and we are exclusively going to be talking about one topic. And that's it. That's the relationship that we built. And it's sort of around business, and it's sort of around more personal issues, but it is an exclusive relationship. It probably won't last very long, but it's kind of a combination book club and, you know, but it is one topic focused relationship. You know, it's focused on one topic. So you can do that if you find that you want something in addition to the relationship that you already have.
Someone asked, how long have you been partners? And if you feel comfortable sharing, what are some of the highlights or low points?
Yeah, so we've been partners since, I think, December of 2018. Is that right, Mel? So it's like 2.5 years?
Yes.
Yeah. High points for me are working in my business full time, like going from having 4 different gigs to doing this full time to now having a team of 6 to quintupling my income in 2019. I set the goal for the year. I just pulled a number literally out of the sky, and it just seemed like a crazy number. Like there was no way I would ever achieve it. But I thought, well, why not? What do I have to lose? And I had Mel's support, and I hit it in 9 months' time.
Mhm.
And so that was just amazing, because I don't think I would have had the courage to dream that big at that point in time, on my own, and to stay on track for the 9 months. So those are definitely some of the highlights for me. And then also too, there's been some times where I had a question of which direction to take my business or what to focus on next. And so I'm able to bounce ideas off of Mel, or like maybe we have kind of just a really strange situation come up with a client, or with a potential client. Like I worked with a client right as we were headed into the shutdown, and I think they were very panicked financially, like watching the stock market drop. And I just completed a really big project for them, and I didn't know if they were going to pay me. I thought they kind of might ghost me, and then I didn't know how I was going to pay my team, and it was a scary situation to be in. And so being able to walk like through that with Mel was super incredibly helpful. Trying to think of other situations, Mel, other highlights or lowlights that you want to share.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So the highlights for me personally, I have attempted and achieved things that I didn't think were possible. I started out with a huge list, just sort of a dream of what I wanted to accomplish. And working with my accountability partners has been the catalyst towards that change. I would not have been able to go in those directions on my own. There's just no way. And so that is definitely the highlight for me, is just having that partner with me that I can check in, once a week. And, I get 15 to 30 minutes to just sort of share what's on my mind and what my goals are. And, it's been just, I've got a cheerleader in Whitney who encourages me and pushes me and tells me I can do it. And it's just awesome, and shares with me all her, wealth of knowledge and advice. And I think that I remember specifically, it was probably about a year ago, I had a really, really awful situation that I was in, and it was just awful, and I couldn't sleep, and it was just, it was a work situation, and I just was really not feeling good about it at all. And then I was like, I wish I could just talk to somebody other than my husband and my son about this. And then I'm like, duh, I have 2 partners. So I sent them an email, because it wasn't our scheduled time, but it was really weighing heavily on my mind. And within just a few hours, one of them was on the phone, and she talked to me for about 3 hours. And the other one shot me the most beautifully well-written, encouraging, loving email. It was, and within 24 hours, I had lifted myself out of that awful space that I was in, and I was able to just let it go and move on. So that is the power of an accountability partnership.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. A follow-up question to that, if you feel comfortable sharing, have you had any highlights or low points in just your partnership relationship with each other that you had to work through?
Not from my end. We've co-applied to speak at a national conference together. We didn't get accepted for this year, but maybe next year is going to be our year. And excited to collaborate with Mel today. This is the first time that we've gotten to do this, and I never would have imagined this or dreamed this when we met 2.5 years ago. So it's a lot of fun, and we share a lot of resources and information too. I did want to talk just a little bit about the nitty gritty so we do email our goals to each other, but what's really helpful about that is it makes me look at my goals for the year, and it makes me review my business plan frequently. But, you know, I guess no more infrequently than once a week am I looking at those goals, so they're still front and center in my mind. And then by sharing them with Mel, you know, that's helping to bring them to fruition. So like, here's you know, my goals for this week. I kind of broke it down by day because that's helpful for me. But sometimes Mel uses a spreadsheet, sometimes it's in an email. Our format has kind of changed and it's evolving over time. And Mel, did you want to talk about any highlights or lowlights or any challenges that we faced in our relationship?
Sure. I feel like, as Whitney said earlier, these relationships are some of the most intimate relationships I have in my life. You know, I have my husband, I have my son, I have a close-knit group of friends, but the two accountability partners that I have, Whitney and my other partner, are right there. I can't even explain to you how important these relationships are to me, and how sad I would be if, you know, we continued to not work with each other. But that being said, they're also the easiest relationships that I have. I feel supported. I feel uplifted. I've never once hung up the phone and thought, wow, this is not working for me. Not once. It has been just really a positive experience all the way around. And I think that a lot of that is because it is business centered and it is business focused. And we both equally care about our business so much. And we're trying to scale our business in different ways, but we both have big dreams and we both want to see each other achieve those dreams. So no, there's not been one instance that I can say has been a struggle in this relationship at all.
Ditto. You know, in fact, Mel, I think I forgot to tell you this last week, but my spouse was a little jealous of you.
Yeah.
Because I've tried talking with her about my business or problem solving, and she's not an entrepreneur, like just not in the same space. And maxes out her attention, and she's just kind of like, okay, I don't want to talk about the struggle with this client, or you know, or she just doesn't, like, she feels overwhelmed and not equipped to try to support me or assist me through that. And too much detail too, and her, you know, her eyes are like glazing over. So it's just so great to have our relationship to be able to, like, this is the space to talk about those issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat is also agreeing that that you did such a great job of vetting before you decided to become partners. That probably also assisted like your great relationship.
Yeah, I just feel really, really lucky. I will tell you, when I started out with 6 and went down to 2, I was pretty nervous. I was like, oh gosh, am I going to have to start this over again? But I kind of just prayed about it. And, you know, this was just so important to me. And I feel so blessed that it worked out, and it worked out the way it did. And just love both my partners so much. And it's just so funny how such an intimate relationship can bloom out of something that's really business focused, because we don't really get on the phone and talk about, you know, our families or really anything else besides our business. Most of the time it's pretty much almost 100%, you know, business focused. And I think that that's the key to the importance of this relationship. I think people need that support in their business, and this is the perfect way to do that.
Yeah, it's not like we don't know each other on a personal level, it's, you know, or that we're not willing to talk about personal things. But yeah, the primary focus is business, and so it is a unique space. It is a unique relationship.
Yeah, the personal stuff evolves, and the support and all of that evolves. But it is really important to keep it business focused as much as possible so that it is more of a business relationship over a friendship. Because if you let the friendship take over, then the focus is gone. And that's, I think, the magic behind the relationship.
Absolutely. Do we have any more questions at this point, Dev?
I think that's all the questions for now.
Okay, well, and you guys have our contact info, but I'll leave it up for a few minutes just in case. And we just wanted to kind of turn it over and have an open discussion. We were curious if any of you have had accountability partnerships in the past and how those went, or if there are any other specific issues related to accountability partnerships that you're curious about.
So I wanted to say thank you so much. This was, I expected a lot from you and you exceeded the expectations. So I really appreciated it. I have had accountability partners in other industries. And I kind of, finding the right accountability, I love the vetting portion that you covered because I have lucked out in the past. And I do have people that I am accountability partners for, but it's hard to find someone that is my accountability partner. Does that make sense? And that's the part I'm having a hard time finding, is someone who can hold me accountable in my industry. So I like the ideas that you shared, but I would like even more ideas, and specifically someone that's within my industry, kind of where to go, that can hold me accountable in, because there's a lot of, I don't know, it's kind of that finding the right fit. Because I love the tips that you gave, because there's a lot there, and finding the right partner and from the get-go setting that expectation of we're going to be courageous, we're going to be honest, may not work.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, Casey, maybe your relationship in the past have been more of like a mentor-mentee, where you've been the mentor. Are you looking for someone who's more of a peer?
So in the past, they were in completely different, it was not within the financial. So it wasn't even in this area, right? It was completely different. So we were in the same industry, and we were accountability partners, and I just lucked out in finding great people to do that with. It was much easier. So it was more of the traditional accountability partners. But I'm finding here, it's much more of, I'm more the mentor, or I'm being, they're seeking out certain pieces from me. And I want someone to be able to, I want to be able to go, I have this goal.
Yeah.
I want to reach executive council, which doesn't mean anything to you, but I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to have 5 seminars on long-term care, something like that. But I'm having a hard time finding people that can be that match, because they're a little bit more, they want how to network, how to do that. And I'm like, I have specific goals like this within my, very specific to my industry.
So I think, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think that when I fill out my goals and send them to Whitney, it's sort of what I'm working on. And when she fills out her goals and sends them to me, it's sort of what she's working on. So if we were working on the same thing at the same time together, it would be more like a mastermind group, because we would be focused on the same things. So I start the call and say, this is what I've done. This is what I've accomplished, da, 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 da. And she does the same thing. And sometimes that's all we do, is we just share information. But if we have 2 or 3 weeks where she's really hitting it and I'm not, I can guarantee you I'm going to push a little harder, try a little harder, and hold myself more accountable, because I want to be able to type up an email and say, oh my gosh, I accomplished so much this week. So is that relationship with the people that you're working with? Have you just said, these are my goals, and then just focused on those? Or do you feel like the call is completely focused on them?
I don't feel like it's necessarily a one-sided call,
Okay.
but I do feel like Whitney mentioned, it's more of they're looking for more advice,
Yeah.
and they're more of like, oh, well, that's a great goal, you'll make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like they're not so much more of going, well, did you make your goal?
Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you do last week? Did you make it? It's like, and I need
So,
the
yeah.
accountability.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that makes, and you, I think using the vetting and just kind of going out there again, you'll probably find somebody that can provide that for you for sure.
Julia, I saw your hand up.
Well, I was just wondering, Casey, do you need someone to who understands like those seminar things, or do you need someone who just can help you understand and be accountable with the process, even though they might not understand all the intricacies of the process? They can help you walk through it. Does that make any sense?
I think it would be helpful for me to find someone within the financial industry, yes, because they would understand there's some restrictions to how I do business that other people don't get. They're like, well, why don't you do things on Facebook this way? And I'm like, FINRA doesn't allow me.
So, you probably belong to some professional organizations, right? Do you have any colleagues that are like on the other side of the country who might be a decent partner?
And that came up because of the way of the connection here. You guys are that way on my screen. That there, as I was like reaching out, that maybe I can make a connection with someone that's not local that would be a little bit more willing to do this just straight accountability, that there's no competition or anything like that.
I went to a professional conference, and one of the breakout sessions was about accountability partnerships. And I was really excited. This is a great kind of booster, refresher. I think these kinds of relationships are incredible. Anyhow, I could never have this kind of relationship with somebody who was both in my field and local. I just don't know. I think it's possible to have somebody, maybe not for you, but I'm trying to think about for me, whether I need someone who's actually in my field to be an accountability partner. And I'm not sure that I do, but if I did, I would never pick somebody who's basically in the same market, because even though you're colleagues / competitors, and that creates a different agenda. And yeah, I mean, for me, it wouldn't work.
Right.
And so many people were shaking their head with you.
Oh, yeah, and I think it's great that Mel and I are in totally different parts of the country. We're not competitors at all.
Right.
But we are in the same industry, the same field. So like, she does understand the code of ethics that we have. She understands specific challenges that I'm facing. So it can be really helpful to have somebody in your field. And we're at a similar level of experience. She's like one more year into her business than I am. So she's not just starting out.
Have you ever seen really effective partnerships where people are not in the same field?
I think anything is possible, for sure. And I feel like the vetting process, the interview questions and the vetting process is so important, because everyone is so unique, and just figuring out what it is that you want and what it is that, are your goals. And if you want somebody to sort of say, I'm having this specific problem in the industry, and somebody else saying, I get it, I understand. But I have an accountability partnership. I've had an accountability partnership with someone who's not in the industry. But we're kind of more specific on what we were focused on. So we were working on the same things, but we were in two totally different markets and totally different businesses. And that worked. So it can work. I think it just all depends on what people are looking for and what's going to work out for you. And so maybe even before you go through the questions, you kind of figure out what it is that I'm looking for. What do I want? And then build your questions around that, you know, what it is specifically you're looking for. I did want to mention there's a time zone question in there. What time zone do you live in? And if you're a morning person or an afternoon or an evening person, that's super important, because if Whitney were a night person, I'm a morning person, we would not be able to connect because of the time zones. If she wanted to meet at 7 o'clock my time, it wouldn't work because I'm pretty much dead by then. It's family time. So the time zones and the whether somebody is kind of on it or sharp in the morning, afternoon, or evening is also really, really, really important and can be a deal breaker for sure.
Yeah, we were going to be roommates at conference this coming year, and Mel was like, are you one of those people who I can't talk to for the first 2 hours of the day till you've had your coffee and you've woken up? Because she's like, I've done that and I can't do that again. And I said, no, I'm like the kind of person who gets out of bed and I'm like verbally processing and I'm on.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I'm like, hey.
Then we can be roommates.
Can I share? I don't have an official accountability partner, but I do have a few good friends who their businesses are really similar to mine. Like, I'm an online business manager and I have a good friend who's a copywriter and another good friend who's a business coach. And so although we do different things, our industries overlap a lot. So we can give each other really good business support. And the bonus of that is we can refer to each other really well because there's so much overlap. So I feel like there's a good in between my industry versus a completely different industry.
Hypothetically, it could be I could work with somebody like Casey on this because I used to be in the industry and I still know enough to be dangerous.
Yep. Yeah.
Like somebody else in networking, Larry's social media group, I'm helping somebody who's in financial services with topics for her Facebook group because I know some of the terms and things that people are concerned about, because those people don't know much about financial investing and planning and blah, blah, so forth.
Thanks, Bill. Are you volunteering to be a potential partner for Casey? If you pass her,
I said hypothetically. I didn't say no, but
if you pass the
she may want one. I'm not sure I want one. I'm not saying her.
And like Melinda said, you could have a different partner for different things. Like, as long as you have the time and energy. For me, like, one partner is all that I need or that I feel like I need. But if you have, a specific goal in one area, then maybe you have somebody who helps you with that specific area. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you have one partner in the industry and one partner outside of your industry to help give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Any last questions or comments? And Deb, I was wondering would you share the handouts in the chat again? Because I think we had Leela just joined us, or a couple people have kind of come in and out.
Is there more than one handout?
There's two.
I'm also going to email them to everybody, so you will get them one way or another. Oh, I guess I can only share one at a time. Here we go.
And our next Wine and Wisdom is going to be in 2 weeks on July 29th. And it's going to be a bonus episode. We'll talk about setting goals based on your needs and your values. So we'll talk about that. And then after July, we're going to go to having Wine and Wisdom once a month, the first Wednesday of the month. And so that'll be kind of our theme for the month. So then within the Facebook group, we can kind of focus on that and dive more, I guess, deeper, and maybe hold each other accountable within the group. So for August 5th, our speaker is going to be talking about ADHD and how to right size if you have it or you think you might have it, whether you've been diagnosed or not, or maybe you have a close loved one who has ADHD. She's going to share some really great information with us. And then in September, Casey will have to talk because we haven't confirmed dates, but Casey is going to be joining us to talk about right sizing your money. And I'm really excited about that too.
Interesting concept.
Yes. And if there are any topics that
We're excited.
you want to learn about, holler. Well, Casey, we're excited to have you in September. It's going to be awesome. And Mel, I can't thank you enough for being my accountability partner and for being here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. It means so much. I can't even tell you. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, all three of you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.